Good morning. It is Friday, January 10th. Welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. Take a look at this video. As you can clearly see, the world is going mad. Living outside of Atlanta, coming from Syracuse, New York, where it snows up there, they're like a machine. I mean, they're fully equipped. They expect it every year. Buffalo, Syracuse, lake effect. We get several feet of snow every year, and they do their best to try to make it livable and get through it so you can continue to get to work, get to school, so on and so forth. When you look at the snow preparation here in Atlanta, obviously the state does not own the number of plows and the necessary sanders and salt machines and everything else, because it doesn't snow enough here to support making those types of investments in that equipment. So trust me, when you even hear about snow here, like we've known for a week, they were talking about possibly snowing. The kids were bristling, we're not going to school. We may not go to school for days for a few inches of snow. So it's happening on a Friday. It is snowing here, as you can see in the video. It's exciting, to see snow on the ground. I have a young son. My wife is from Jersey originally, so she knows snow, but not for a long time down here. So we don't get snow, and the entire place is like literally sliding sideways. They don't know how to drive in it. They don't know what to do. So if you're from this area, stay in the house because you have no clue how to manage snow. Boom. Today's show is entitled The LA Fires. Obviously, there's a terrible, terrible, terrible disaster, catastrophe out in Los Angeles right now. I have not been there to see it, although I lived there for many, many years and went through very bad fires. I was in Montecito during the Tea House fire. Was in Malibu for over 20 years, so I saw what happens. I was there at the evacuation, helped people that I know, very, very famous people. I remember, being at Nick Nolte's house, getting ready for the evacuation there to help Nick, and just, watched what it looks like and how helpless you are as you're, aiming hoses at your house to let them deflect water. And will this stop that ember that lands? Obviously, when the fire comes, if it's burning your next door neighbor's house and it's ravaging through your plant life and everything, there's really nothing you can do. But it's a very helpless place to think of all the things that you own. You have insurance for. Really the most important thing is that you got out. All your loved ones, there's no death or injury. Your animals, houses can be replaced. There's insurance, and it's a structure, it's a thing. Life cannot, if a life is lost. For the firemen too, and the firemen's families who are watching on the news to see how bad it is, and you're like, oh my God, my husband or my wife is in that right now, fighting this fire. It's got to be awful. And when you're watching the spread of the fire, and you're like, is this going to get to my neighborhood? You start thinking about your home being gone, your house where you keep all your things. And so for many of my friends that are out there, I'm very sad because usually you can't replace the pictures. And nowadays you can have them in the cloud, and you can have them on, all different types of technologically advanced things compared to a guy my age where, there's stuff in this house that I would not be able to replace if it burned to the ground. In my home, which never burned down when I lived in Malibu, there were certainly things there, awards and memorabilia of my father and mother, and things about my kids' drawings that I saved, certain drawings and paintings when they were little, and they're in a box as a keepsake for them. If that stuff went, they'd be gone. There's no insurance that could bring that back. So, watching, it was very sad to watch James Woods. Jimmy he and I have worked together on, John Carpenter's Vampires. We became friends. He's an old friend, and I watched him talk about being 77 years old and not being able to walk down the hills to evacuate his home. And would his home be spared? And in fact, it was not spared. It was It burnt down. Mel Gibson, another person who, I've worked for, I've worked with. He helped me through a very difficult time in my life. He was there to support me and encourage me to find God and to overcome some hurdles that were in my life that he had experienced similar to me. So he was there. He was a good guy. Really helped me. I saw that his home burnt to the ground. So and many others. So my point is that I'm so sad. I want to open by saying how sorry I am for this terrible catastrophe that have happened. But I wanted to delve into a couple of different areas of it. Because, for me, I look at, all of it. I look at the satellite view of what I can find out, what's being said, what's most commonly happening, what are the things that we could learn from it or we could improve from. I have a friend of mine, Jason, up in Tennessee, and he and I had talked about going to the government of California with a program of how we could limit, the spread of these wildfires, particularly in the wilderness, and along highways and stuff, which, had to do with the removal and debris and treating the ground with certain things that would have obviously slowed this one down quite a bit. But I will tell you that it's very surreal for someone who lived there as long as I did, because I'll tell you, the only thing I can think of image-wise that it reminds me of is World War II. When you look at London and some of the smaller villages that were just bombed out, and you see buildings where where it looks like it was obviously a bomb hit it or a missile or something, a shell, and then it caught on fire and just, it's the side of the building is collapsed and this imagery is all the way down Pacific Coast Highway. There's so many places where I took my kids, I had business meetings, I would frequent eating-wise. My friends owned the restaurant or the small business, the Real Inn, which was a place that we used to go and buy have our little fish dinners at. There's so many small places that you often wondered, how long will that business last? It's so little, but the steady, dedicated mom and pop places that were frequented by locals that really wanted them to stay alive, they're all burned down. It looked like London, it looked like Germany, towards the end of the war. Just devastating, it's all gone. It's all gone. And so many friends in the Palisades, so many acquaintances, so many work relationships that I know, the people that own the homes. And so we're going to get into a whole array. So I want to first start at the beginning, which is the cause remains under investigation, but it was exacerbated by the strong winds and dry conditions after a period of low rainfall. So let's summarize. It was very dry. The wind is blowing. This is called the Santa Ana winds, which are very strong winds that blow through there. So whenever that combination of dry Santa Anas happen, it's a very dangerous problem. That's why Jason and I sat together and put together this whole plan that we tried to present to California, and they rejected it, which is very sad because there's ways of excavating the land. There's ways of setting up where you have break points that would compartmentalize the spread of the fires. Remember too that when the wind is blowing like that, a burning ember can go up in the air and end up like a mile or more away. It can carry it on a strong wind. If you look at the number of semis, Google this, semis overturned in California. It's like the highway is littered with 18-wheeler tractor trailers lying on their side because of how strong the winds were. So you have to ask yourself, why are the winds so strong right now there? Like, I've never seen anything like that. And I lived there for like 25 years, but I've never seen this number of semis. So what's happening with it? The wind was that strong? Is this just a very terrible cocktail of coincidence that Mother Nature has put together this particular season? I don't know, but there's a lot, I'm a conspiracy theorist. So remember, anything that you hear me say here is my opinion. What I'm reading to you are stuff that I was able to download off the internet. It's not my words. What I read to you already was from the LA Times. I looked at another article that's from the BBC.com. What caused the fires? A combination of exceptionally dry period. Downtown Los Angeles has only received 0.16 inches or 0.4 centimeters of rain since October. And the powerful offshore gusts known as the Santa Ana winds have created ripe conditions for wildfires. Okay, so we understand the high risk and the volatility of what's going on in California that has fueled this terrible, terrible disaster right now. Now, when you go deeper and you look at things that are on social media, there's an address that keeps coming up, and by no means am I saying I know this to be true. I'm just telling you what the chatter is, what's going on, which is 1190 Pedro Morata Drive in Pacific Palisades has been associated with claims that there was first I heard there was a barbecue that went awry, either at that house or right in that pocket of homes right there, that it has a distinctive red roof, this house, and then there's all the way to outlandishly wild accusations of satanic rituals that are going on in that area, and I heard that I've heard the whole thing about lasers being used. Was that people are witnessing, putting up videos, and so again with AI, you can't really tell anymore, unless you have it forensically examined by somebody who can decipher whether AI is used in this particular video. But there's green little lightning bolts, similar to what happened out in Maui, that it's either a government or technologically advanced company that started the fire. So if you lived in Hawaii and your roof was blue, literally painted blue, your house, or your car was blue, somehow there was some association between that and the houses that didn't get zapped or burned. So, I mean, was there some pre-designed way that you could stop, like people that knew this was going to happen in Hawaii? I don't know. I mean, again, I go into these situations, the fire, for instance, with an open mind. I mean, I want to know what's being said. I'd like to know what the facts are. And sadly, I don't believe anymore that you can just go and guarantee even what you're getting from the news is a fact. I mean, look at this election that just went by, and there's a master that some of these news programs and these news sources are serving. There is. So, I just, I'd hate to think that for some reason this terrible fire was set by human beings. I would hate to think that that's the case. But Bass, the mayor, she's in a lot of hot water right now. She really is. And although I think that some of her criticism is politically motivated. It's all politically motivated in one way or another. But for her, the decision to not come home right away, as I said, if I was the mayor of Atlanta and something was happening, I would have come home right away, I think was really stupid on her part. So again, you have to ask yourself when you're faced with those types of decisions, and then you watch what the person actually does. Let's not talk about what they could have done. Let's talk about what they did. So is she qualified to be the mayor of Los Angeles? Los Angeles is a big city, man. A lot of different intricacies going on out there. A lot of different people of different socioeconomic and ethnic, background. I mean, it's a very diverse city. Is this woman qualified to be the mayor of any city? I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like when push comes to shove, she's capable of making some really crummy decisions. I mean, this was a really stupid, no-brainer. She should have come right home. I want to bring up something else, though, and this goes more towards Gavin Newsom and the awareness. It's not a fool that makes mistakes. It's not a fool that makes mistakes. It's a fool that repeats making the same mistakes over and over again. That's a fool. because you didn't learn from what you saw, you witnessed, or you experienced. That's foolish. And the water in the hydrants failed to reach 200 out of about 1,000 hydrants in the hills of the Pacific Palisades, Quinones said. This is a rep from California. The city briefly had to shut down the neighborhood's entire system to try restoring pressure to the hydrants. So let me repeat that. They turned off. Now, I don't technologically know how turning it off, does that create some kind of vacuum or pressure builds back up to deliver this water or whatever. But I will say this. I lived in California. I lived in Malibu through multiple, and up in Montecito outside of Santa Barbara. So up there I went through evacuation, had to go find a hotel with my family, with my pets, my brother Billy, his family, China Phillips, his wife, their kids, the whole bit. We had to load it up and go. Well, stuff all around us burned. My house was spared. Billy's house was spared. But we knew a lot of people who went through this. Not at the level that's going on right now in the Palisades and in Malibu, but we saw some pretty bad devastation. So I've actually lived this. I've actually lived, and you must leave your home, and then the mudslides that killed all the people afterwards. Because remember, this is what they're going to face out there again now. When you burn all the root systems of the shrubbery and the plant life, that's what holds the ground together, so that when it rains, all that dirt and everything, what holds that dirt is the plant life. So it will be at high risk in the canyony and mountainous areas of the Palisades of Malibu where it burns, for it to have tremendous mudslides and when the rain follows now. So that's going to be another real big challenge for people up there. They shut the water down. They turned it off in the middle of the fire. Have we not learned anything from Santa Barbara, Montecito, other Malibu fires? I mean, we see this happen. It's not the wilderness. These are residential, highly populated, super, super expensive homes. And they haven't come up with maybe putting 10 towers up. The big, giant water tankers that sit up on the pedestal when you drive in through Kansas, and you see now coming into Topeka, and it says, with 100,000 gallons of water up there as a fire reserve. I don't know. I'm not professing to have all the answers here. I'm not. I'm just looking at the logic of it. So these huge tankers work off of the giant water tower with the pedestal that comes straight down is filled with water, and gravity lets that come down. It's up high and it just drops down. We couldn't put, 20 of those every few miles just in case. Is there a way to tap into those? Do we find areas, buy it from the private owner, state land reservoirs where planes can dive in and pick that water up and keep them filled? Could we find springs that fill those? Do we have to divert water from somewhere else? Could we catch the water? I mean, listen, it doesn't rain a lot, but when you start, do we need to build a system that catches that water? We've had this happen every 5 years. There's some terrible fire. That seems like every year there's a fire. What are we doing to set ourselves up to be successful, Gavin Newsom? What are you doing? I mean, I look at California that I lived in the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s. And I don't even recognize California. I mean, Oakland and the homeless problem in Los Angeles. What are we doing out there, man? What are we doing that I have to check in with family members and friends to see if they're alive right now, because we were not ready for this. And again, it's not a fool that makes a mistake, but it's foolish not to learn from the same thing happening over and over again. And we don't seem to be doing anything. If you could spend all this money on the crap we spend money on, If you can spend $8 billion, what would it cost Californians to have these water stations of some kind? Let me tell you that the hydrants have failed during other fire disasters, including the massive 2023 wildfire at Lahaina, Hawaii, said Andrew Welton, engineering professor at Purdue University. We don't design water systems to handle 50 to 100 structures or 1,000 structures catching on fire in 24 hours, Welton said. That would take a massive redesign. I mean, the weather is what the weather is out there. Let's say no one's firing lasers. Let's say there's no psychos that are evidently one of the other fires. They have a suspect that he set it. I don't know what you can do about that, but when someone sets a fire with the intent, but we're not set up for these types of massive fires, and yet we have them all the time. Why don't we have 10 C-3 tanker planes, like the military big ones that they put tanks on, and fill that the technology isn't, fill it up with some fire retardant thing that lets it drop out. And let's buy those. Let's refurbish some old ones. Let's have them stored away, and let's put stuff on there that can knock these fires out. Certainly, if Elon Musk and the boys can take a rocket and have it come right back and land in the stand and grab the rocket and re-enter the earth, I mean, we don't have a material of some kind, some talky chemical that's not going to kill all the wildlife. I mean, this is the United States of America. We're like, super smart and very wealthy and really talented people. We can't come up with something and then, I don't know, I'm the governor, I say, yeah, I know this is a big one on you taxpayers, but hey, if these fires were to hit in a certain area, I want you to know, I made the call. I bought these big ass planes that carry a super amount of this stuff. It can be refilled at the station with, buy 4 of them. 4, don't buy 10. Buy 4. Order them to be retrofitted to put this fire retardant material on. I mean, I've seen these little Canada airplanes that come in and scoop up a little water. Man, let's go pipe up from a military base. There's lots of military bases in California. There's lots. There's, huge systems there. Fill one of them up that puts tanks in it with a big bladder they can take a tank and can take water. The weight's not the problem. They have these giant Hercules propellers, 8 engines, whatever the hell they have on them. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying, I would be immediately after the first, second, third, fourth, 25th, 35th time that this happens, I'd be looking at those airplanes saying, hey, we need help. We need to do something. The system is not set up to handle. So if I had to have a bunch of this dust, hopefully we can develop something that's not carcinogenic. That would be really helpful. But this fire retardant dust, and I'm the neighbor in the area whose house didn't burn, and I have to have my house cleaned because I saved the lives of the animals, the wildlife, and the houses of my neighbors. I'm okay with that. Does it hurt to take this simple idea and develop it? If I'm the governor of California and I keep having this happen, this problem happen, and the wildlife, when we look at the wildfires that happen, where it's not on someone's house, but the massive fires that happen, I think it was Wyoming and Montana this year, and it happens every year. Every year, someone's careless with a fire they set or throw a cigarette out of a car, and it creates this problem. Why don't we use military reserves? I'm not saying put these men and women in harm's way and ask them to do a job of fighting the fire that they're not qualified to do. I'm saying there's a logical one. I've developed the planes that I'm talking about. I would take those big giant planes that they use in the military. They take off all the time here. We watch them in the air here in Atlanta. Let's grab a few of those. Don't buy brand new ones. Get some older ones. We're not sending them into combat. We're sending them to drop some stuff, a big payload down to stop the fire. And then fly around the outside of the fire and drop the retardant so it can't spread. Maybe you can't knock the whole flame out. Maybe you can't, but let's stop it from spreading. Do something, man. Do something. Now, I want to get into something else that I found really, really compelling, and it's about the Resnick family. Excuse me. While 40 million Californians suffer through unprecedented drought, one billionaire couple owns a massive share of the state's water system, largely seized in a series of secretive meetings 2 decades ago. That system was largely paid by the very taxpayers whose water these billionaires hold hostage. Urban water systems are desperate for water, but in 2023, they'll receive just 5% of what they requested from the state. Stuart and Lydia Resnick use 150 billion gallons a year. So, according to this report, the Resnicks, who own big pecan farms and all these flowers and all this different stuff, somehow through political favor, they made this deal with Democrats, I believe, to own the rights to all this water. And they have contracts to support it. So we're not going to get, take a look at this number again. We're not going to get 5% of the water they control that would have fed the hydrants, that would have allowed these brave men and women from the fire departments to go and responsibly fight these fires because of flowers and pecan farms. Pistachio farms, I think it was. Again, Governor Newsom can't turn around and say some emergency. He can ask Joe Biden to come out and Joe Biden to wave his magic wand and give federal relief, deservedly so, by the way. You know, it's a terrible disaster that's happened there. But you can't make this billionaire couple fork over another 10% of the water as an emergency effort because an entire city, an area of an entire city is on fire. Maybe we should relook this Resnick contract. Maybe someone should take a look at how ridiculous what I just read you was. Are you kidding me? That the water is there and they're using it for private contracting, farming, and flower plantations, versus Malibu and the Palisades are burning, and now Hollywood are burning to the ground. And the water's there. So this whole BS story about how there is no water and it's a drought, no, they have water. The state of California no longer has control over the water. And if you were to investigate who got paid what wire transfers and who got paid money and so on and so forth, about how this billionaire couple supposedly has all of the water rights. I mean, how many times will my friends who are devout Democrats allow these injustices to take place in California before they're going to take a look at it and say, you know, now it's affected me directly. It has affected me directly. And the system is broken in California. It really is. Go through Los Angeles and look at the homelessness and the quality of life and the gap between the have and the have-nots. I mean, there's going to be some real rebellion in this country. It's coming, man. It is coming. Because the Democrats aren't going to just lie down, but they're going to create an incredible civil unrest, in my opinion. I think that's coming towards the inauguration. I hope the president and those people that go to that inauguration are safe from any kind of plans that people have to do them wrong. But this water situation, I was just dumbfounded as I read more and more about how so much of this water that's available, that you're a firefighter. I mean, God bless the police department, the firefighters, our military, you know, these first responders who go there and they're up there and they're saying, hey, you know, we gotta build a wall here, we gotta build, you know, whatever it is that they do. And I don't know all the terminology, so please excuse me. I'm not trying to say that I'm an expert. I'm just trying to say that you send these boys and girls out there to Next time you're in a restaurant, I do it all the time. I know here in Atlanta, there's police and there's fire guys who I just pick up the check. I don't say anything. Or I walk by them and I say, hey, ma'am, thank you so much. Thank you so much for keeping us safe. I thank them. I thank them for the job that they do, the incredible job that they do to keep us safe. I do. I'm so appreciative, and we're so blessed. And they get out there and they rip open a fire hydrant and nothing comes out. Imagine you're in a carjacking and the police respond. They're right there. They see it and they come out and they take their gun out and there's no bullets in the gun. There's no funding for the bullets anymore. It's just the threat of aiming the gun. Maybe they won't know. Maybe they won't know that cop doesn't really have any bullets because we did not supply him with what he needed to do his job. We did not supply these brave firefighters in California the things they need, the water they need, and the people whose homes went down that could have been prevented. That's criminal to me. This whole thing that I'm reading about the water supply out there, I think there should be an investigation done. I really do. I think that heads should roll. They should roll for this. They really should. So I think it's terrible. I do. I really do. I think it's absolutely terrible. But I'll stay on it and I'll continue to report on it. See what I can find out more. Lydia Resnick, I want to add, said, we're thinking about water 24/7, okay? I don't want to get into a drought discussion right now because it's really off topic. But it is a serious, and a lot of people have suffered. It's tough time for people with no rain. But our climate is in terrible jeopardy, but we don't want to go there right now. We all know that, right? The Resnicks are the biggest farmers in California as of 2007. They own 4 of San Francisco's biggest farmlands. And so they made a deal with this family and they sold us out. And so now all those people that swore by Newsom, that swore by Biden, that swore by Harris, Democrats, and a very powerful group in California, in Los Angeles, formidable power. A lot of them with big voices lost it all now, lost it all. And I've gone on to read, just incredible theories, just crazy stuff that the fires were started to hide a tunnel system. The fires were started to hide, and all this different crazy conspiracy stuff but at the end of the day, you can't tell me when a fireman or firewoman opens up a hydrant and there's no water there that you can justify that in any way. Well, the system, according to Purdue University professor, has suggested that these hydrants and this system is not made for putting out hundreds of fires at a time. Well, then make it for hundreds of fires at a time, or supplement the water supply. You're putting the lives of these firefighters in danger that are going up into the heat, into the fire with this wind blowing the way it is. Remember something too. I lived through this. The wind blowing this way, you're thinking it's going towards the west and it's gonna, get this neighborhood. It can shift on a dime and blow right back at you, and suddenly you're stuck. It can surround you. It is crazy when the Santa Anas kick in high gear. It's crazy. And it burns everything in its path. So we're sending our boys and girls up there to go up there and fight, and we're not giving them the necessary things. They're not giving them the water that they need. Shame on you. Shame on you. Fix it. Fix it in California. Take the preventative measures, and get the necessary trucks. Put up the towers if you have to that hold the water, the tankers. Put those airplanes together like I suggested, where you can put millions and millions and millions of pounds, tons of fire retardant materials, and retrofit a few of these airplanes and just do what you got to do. I'm no scientist. I'm not somebody that has studied any of this, but I can tell you simple stuff that works. Why would you take a little plane? Why would you take a plane as wide as my house? Not even my house. The fuselage is it's 15 feet across, not even. When you've got giant airplanes, that, like I said, they put hundreds of soldiers and tanks and trucks, and it could carry as much water as you want, as big as the plane is. Take right off, drop it all, fix it. For God's sake. It's going to happen every other year, and it's going to kill more and more people. And our tax dollars are being wasted on so much other crap in California. Now it's hit the people that have a lot of money. Now it's hit the people in my industry. Now they're going to say, hey man, what the hell is going on here? Good. For only that reason did I say good. Not that I'm in favor of the fire. I'm so sad. I'm so, I'm just so sad that these are my friends, are going through this. But it's not like people didn't say it was going to happen. Joe Rogan said a piece about, he spoke to a fire guy who said, if the cocktail is right, the wind's in the right direction, and it happens in the right spot when it's really dry, you're going to see fires out there. It's like, Nostradamus kind of stuff that he said. And he called it. Rogan called it through this friend of his on his podcast, and talked about how this was coming, how this was absolutely coming. So, God, it just seems like so obvious sometimes, the things that we need to do. But as we watch the last 10 days now of Joe Biden and Harris and Democratic control at the White House, the things they're doing right now, So let me tell you that believe it or not, like I pointed out to you before about the metal for the wall that's being sold off by Biden in Arizona and Texas and all the border states. He's doing that so that it'll be much harder for Trump with only 4 years to go in there and really be successful building the wall and taking control of the border. It's what he's doing. So to make sure the Republicans aren't as successful as they can be, the Biden administration is doing some really terrible things, in my opinion, to ensure the fact that it's just going to take that much longer for them. And remember I said this. I said before COVID happened, I said, we're going to face some type of crisis. I bought my home in upstate New York based on this. I bought it on a lake where there was fresh water. I said, there's going to be a reason why we are going to be stuck in our homes for months and months at a time. There's going to be a reason. I had this overwhelming feel about it. I made it known. I talked about it on my show. And I said, and remember, I'm going to tell you this. They're selling off the metal at the wall. You're making fun of Trump right now because he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico, but you don't realize how brilliant that is. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. We're going to close the show on this. We are going to face another pandemic type of thing. They're going to throw that at us for sure. There's just too much money in it for them. As time goes on, hopefully, we'll actually really discover how crooked the whole Fauci situation and the vaccines and the people that made billions and billions of dollars on that ruse. But we're facing another one. So be ready, for another type of situation they're going to throw at Trump and the administration. Man-made, in my opinion, set up by the government or by certain superpower conglomerates. But that's coming. That's going to come. There's going to be another one. Another reason to keep you all in your homes, control you and me. Trump says, well, let me read this first. Biden bans new offshore drilling in most federal waters in last-minute effort to block possible action by Trump administration. So this article identifies, let me read on, Washington AP, President Joe Biden is moving to ban new offshore oil drilling and gas drilling in most U.S. coastal waters as a last-minute effort to block possible action by incoming Trump administration to expand offshore drilling. Biden, whose term expires in 2 weeks, said he is using the authority under the Federal Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act to protect offshore areas along the east and west coasts, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and portions of Alaska's northern Bering Sea from future oil and natural gas leasing. Let's connect it right away. Trump says he will rename the Gulf of Mexico. Can he do that? The president-elect told reporters Tuesday that he wanted the body of water called the Gulf of America, but he provided no details on how that change would be enacted. Biden's ban, which would dramatically slow up the ability for the president-elect to start drilling and start reinvigorating our energy sales. Now, I want to just stay here for a second. If we don't have to import the oil, if we don't have to spend the money, if we don't have to bring in things from other countries, that means that we're doing them here. When we're doing them here, we create jobs. We have wealth within our own country. It's good for the economy, okay? The law that Joe Biden signed says specifically that we will not be drilling for gas and oil in the Gulf of Mexico. It doesn't say anything about the Gulf of America. By renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, they were stupid enough not to put in the legislation the longitudinal and latitudinal numbers that would identify where you can and can't. They just went by the title. How smart would it be to rename it and then be able to do whatever you want, no matter what the laws that Joe Biden passed, that Joe Biden, in a last-ditch effort to screw over the incoming administration. That's the only reason why he did it. So we're doing things that are costing you and me more money with the plans of the incoming administration to guarantee that they're not that successful, or to make it so that it will be less successful than it would be because of these giant hurdles that they have, these roadblocks, these boulders they're dropping on the highway and asking us to have to slow everything down and crawl around them and smash them up and clean them off the road so we can start to flow again. No, this administration is going to do whatever it has to do as it leaves, as their fond farewell to you, is to cost you more money and screw this guy over, so that down the road, when you say J.D. Vance is the natural guy that we want to look how good it's gotten, they're going to make sure they do everything they can just to screw this administration. How awful is that? How awful is that? How brilliant in this game of chess is it? While you made fun of him saying he's going to rename the Gulf of Mexico, it was called the Gulf of Mexico before this country was formed. Now, touche, my friend. He's doing it because he's going to circumvent the nonsense that Biden and his people are doing to try to make the Republicans less successful. So they may change the name of it. Do you really think that he's only doing it because he thinks Gulf of America sounds better? No, that's not why he's doing it. He's doing it because he's going to reinvest in America. He's going to drill in the Gulf of Mexico, where there are vast, vast oil supplies. And he's going to stimulate the economy so that we make money here and we stop giving it away to everybody else. Whether you like that plan or not, whether you think that's, the ecology of it, the this, that, I'm not getting into that. What I'm getting into is that the current administration on their way out is willing to sabotage, to make decisions to sabotage the success of what the majority of America decided they wanted. Remember that the number of the pockets that made this race that close between Harris and Trump are very small. If you were to just lay out the places that they won, geographically. So make them all blue and all red. It's like 90 something percent of the country, geography wise, voted for Trump. It's just these very intensely populated pockets that are making the decisions of everybody in Wyoming, everybody in this state, everybody in that state, everybody in these more rural, less populated. So our system, when you look at the popularity of people that want to see his plans succeed, it dwarfs the number of the Democratic holds. I should probably try to pull up some type of graphic so you could see that. Maybe I'll do it next show. So I just thought I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to tag you with how absolutely brilliant naming it the Gulf of America would be if he can pull that off. Then he's going to drill there to try to circumvent the ridiculous policies that Joe Biden is only passing. And there's a lot more of them. We could talk about more of them. But my mind is on the people of California right now, the people affected by this terrible, terrible, terrible fire out there. And it's more than one. So as we come to a close on the show, as you know, if you don't pray, then this is a time for you to turn the show off, because I end every show with prayer. And I know in my heart of hearts that there's a large number of people that need our prayer in California right now. So if it is not your thing, then turn it off. And if it is, get ready, because here we go. Lord God, we thank you for your blessings. And God, we ask you to look at what's happening in California right now, these terrible fires. Our brave men and women and first responders who put their life on the line every day. This terrible, terrible disaster that's going on out there. And our friends, Lord, who have been directly affected by the fires, who have lost their homes, even the wildlife and our pets that have perished, the 10 people so far and counting that have lost their lives and their families. We reach out to them, Lord, and we say, God, please, God, stop this fire. Please, God, somehow turn those winds down. If it is your will that this fire could be put out sooner than later, God, let's get containment of this fire. And God, can we get the powers that be in California to see that don't make decisions based on politics, make decisions based on life, and make decisions based on the Lord God and his will, and help these people to act responsibly, to help so many of our brothers and sisters out there that are struggling now through this terrible, terrible natural disaster, this fire in California. Put that big and blow that fire out, God. Give us the strength, Lord. We love you and we believe in you. Our faith is unwavered. So for the people of California, amen. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're going through this right now. I hope an end is going to come very, very shortly. Maybe those winds will die down and our brave men and women can get this thing contained and stop the carnage. So we're thinking about you. We're praying for you. We love you in California. And that is the end of this show. I will see you again. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. God bless you.